полковник Андрія Лис.
Invite Colonel Lysenko, who's the spokesperson of ATO, with the updates about events in ATO area. Yeah, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. The most difficult place in the east of Ukraine, that is near Debaltseve, where the enemy is trying to take offensive actions. During the night, militants used all kinds of weapons they have, and they shelled 18 times upon ATO forces. Militants many times made efforts to storm Lohvinovo, Novogrigoryivka, Komuna, Artemivsky district of Donetsk region, and all the attacks were fought off by our military men. And fights and battles for those towns and villages continue. Debaltseve became a certain symbol of heroic battles, and it is under the control of Ukrainian armed forces. Bandits shell upon it daily, 24 hours, and that they ruin city, the town's infrastructure. Despite that, Ukrainian military men hold their positions bravely, and terrorists shelled upon they used grad system in Artemivsky, Yasinovat, Telminiv, Volnovakha districts of Donetsk region, and also Popasna in Stanishta-Luhansky districts of Luhansk region. From because of shells of shelling of the animal, Novogrigoryivka and Popasna suffered in Makarova, Luhansk region. Militants used mortars, and they shelled upon the Burgas unit. They were moving on Kugar armed vehicle because of the skills of the driver. Burgas got out of the area of attack, and they were not. They had no problem. Near Novozovsk, militants used a grad system, and they shelled upon Gnutovo crossing point. Checkpoint, and there were about 30 shells exploded, and because of that, the border crossing point stopped its work, and that is in Gnutovo and Stanitsa Luhanska. According to Operational Command North and in Luhansk direction, our military men noticed two drones near Orychova and Novotashkivska. According to the data of our intelligence, grouping of Russian Federation near Russian border is enlarging. Military men and equipment are accumulated on the territory of Rostov region. From there, Russian military men are sent to the territory of Ukraine, and they put different kind of uniforms without insignia and without documents. Those who express that they are not happy to fight against Ukraine, they threaten that they would dismiss them from the Soviet. During the day, we lost 7 Ukrainian military men, and 24 were wounded. Ukrainian authorities strengthen anti-terrorist activities near the line, separation line, and on the line with occupied Crimea, according to the decree of the Cabinet of Ministers since February 10, 2015, on the territory of some cities and towns of Donetsk, Luhansk, Kharkiv, Kherson region. We introduced the system of special activities. They regulate entry, temporary sojourn, and the movement of citizens of Ukraine and other people, and different activities, and control of boats, ships, and other means. Those activities will improve the efficiency of Ukrainian military men in fighting and destroying infiltrators and terrorists. And since February 9 to 12, 2015, inspection group and does in Rostov region inspection. According to Vienna document 2011 on activities to strengthen, to build health and security. Our inspectors, by the way, have the right in those districts for access to military and other defense facilities, to ships and military ships, and to planes, except those areas that are prohibited. Ukraine Special Forces destroy infiltrators. In Slavyansk today, they arrested the informer of DNR band formation. 22 years old resident of Donetsk, he was recruited by militants and during 8 months he informed so-called intelligence of DNR about dislocations and movement of armed forces of Ukraine. 2 more informers of illegal military formations. Our officers, our SBU arrested in Mariupol and Krasnominsk. They provided to enemy information about movement and about how many Ukrainian men moved near Peromaisk, and one of them directly corrected the fire upon our towns and villages. On the same day, SBU arrested a postman with cash for militants. He was moving to Novozovsk to give about 30,000 hryvnia to DNR formation. Near Molnovacha, they arrested one more active participant of DNR who corrected artillery fire and from a plot. Gang. Informer collected and transmitted it to his boss Tikhon, where our equipment was and our armaments were and our military men. He was kidnapped. He was also stealing cars from civilians in Donetsk region. In Sumy region, not far from Pokrovka, our border guards arrested a citizen of Russia who illegally crossed the state border. He was noticed with the help of thermal visor. He didn't have documents. He was dressed up in a military uniform, and he explained that he lives in Udmurtia Republic and to Ukraine. In Ukraine, he wanted to visit his relatives, and he has insignia of tank troops of Russian Federation, 28th motor arms unit of Russia. There is continuous shell upon Ukrainian cities, and it brings to ruin. On train station of the shell exploded on an engine, and that's where there was a team of railroads group and.
In Popasna, during the artillery shelling, 2 local citizens were killed. That is why the Ukrainian rescue servicemen take the peaceful citizens of Donbass from the zone of battlefield during the last 24 hours from the dangerous regions. Дебальцево, Новогригорівка, Комуна, Миронівське, Красний Пахар, Чорнухіна, Авдіївка. 359 people were evacuated. We remind you that thanks to the work of our rescue and servicemen and volunteers during the last 10 days, more than 4,500 people left the pre-front settlements. Ukrainian military engineers strengthened the defense on the liberated territories. The engineers all the time are strengthening the fortification positions and the borders. And they organize explosive and non-explosive barriers. Every day the group of deminers demine and eliminate from 10 to 15 explosives. These are different types of non-explosed shells or mines set by the separatists. The 4th wave of mobilization continues in Odessa. The training of officers who are mobilized continues. The mobilized officers learn different issues during the lessons on tactical, special, firing, engineering, preparation, and topography. And they studied the army disciplines and are ready to execute the tasks on defense of the territorial integrity of Ukraine. The training on improving Ukrainian tactical medicine continues. In Uzhgorod, the representatives of different cities of Ukraine participate in such trainings. This time, 30 participants are there. The instructors for 8 hours organized the lessons on the basis of evacuation, on stopping the bleeding during wounding, the ABC protocol, heart and lung reanimation, the renewal of patency of airways, stopping the arterial bleeding, and so on. So Ukrainian patriots support our defenders who are serving in the front line. The volunteers from Kirovograd region gave the vehicle UAZ to one of the military units. It will be operating in the zone of ATO. Also, volunteers transported 2 tons of humanitarian assistance to Ukrainian military near Debaltseva. They gave the food products, the first necessity goods, and the modern generator. Foreign partners also support Ukrainian army. The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine presented military assistance that Ukraine received from the government of the Great Britain. The helmets, armored vests, sleeping bags, and medical kits. The British side gave to the armed forces of Ukraine the material and technical assistance for the amount of $1,872,000 US. Most of that humanitarian assistance has been already given to military units. Ukraine educates the new generation of defenders. The Andriy, the sergeant, one of the 5 first-year students of the Academy of Land Forces, named after Hetman Sagaidatchny, which has the experience in participation in ATO in the east of Ukraine. Out of the tasks that were executed by Sergeant Pets and other Lviv paratroopers were protecting the units and other things. The servicemen participated in liberating Slavyansk and Mykolаivka. For his heroism, the youngest Sergeant Andriy Pets was awarded the Order for Courage of the 3rd degree. The world supports Ukraine in fighting with Russian aggression. The President Poroshenko, in telephone conversation with the President of Poland, Bronislaw Komorowski, emphasized that he is for sustainable ceasefire, withdrawal of heavy weaponry, and withdrawal of foreign troops from the territory of Ukraine. Also, the head of the Ukrainian state emphasized that the border should be closed from armaments and mercenary supplies. Also, all the hostages are to be liberated. Only after that there will be the preconditions for holding the local elections according to Ukrainian legislation. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel, during the negotiations with the President of US Barack Obama, stated that Russia twice violated the territorial integrity of Ukraine when illegally annexed Crimea and when it supports separatists in Donbass. The President Obama stated that if diplomatic efforts on settling the conflict in the east of Ukraine will fail, then U.S. will consider all possible ways of resolving the crisis, including the supply of defense weaponry to Ukraine. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask.
Tell us what is happening in, near Mariupol direction. Who's offensing there? What strategic goals are there? Is it to distract forces from Debaltseve? What's happening there? Just for your understanding, now there is a counter-offensive operation organized against militants and terrorists, who are coming closer to Mariupol. We remember the tragedy which happened because, and also civilians died as a result. And now our military men move back to the separation line, to the positions which were which are mentioned in Minsk agreements. I have two questions. The first one, can we say that Ukrainian military men encircled near Debaltsevo, Artemivsk, and how many of them are there? What's going on there? What is done to solve the situation? And also bombers, Russian bomber that was shelling upon the positions of Ukrainian militarymen. What do you know about it? It's clear about the drones. What about the aircrafts and bombers, Russian bombers and aircrafts? The first question about Debaltsevo. As you see now, there is the most difficult situation here. There is a battle that our militarymen hold to Debaltsevo. Now there are fights for such directions as Artemis Debaltsevo. And it's very difficult to speak about any fixed position because the situation is changing fast. We hope that we will be able to defend that place. We have enough of capabilities and reserves. They are pulled up, but there are a lot of forces fighting against our military men there. As to the aircrafts, we don't have such information. Three questions. The first one about Kramatorsk. Make your comments because I read Twitter and 20 minutes unknown plane used missiles, shelled with missiles upon Kramatorsk airport. Do you have information about that? One more question about Azov. They started an open offensive attack. What's the situation there? And Azov says that they shot down Su-25 Russian fighter. As to shot down aircrafts and aviation and NATO headquarters, they don't confirm that information about that strike from air. We don't have that information. As to the Azov battalion, that counter-offensive of Azov battalion and other units, it will help to stop terrorists. It will stop them to shell upon Mariupol. So they will thrown away from further than the distance from which they could shell upon Mariupol. Could you give more information about that inspection in Rostov region? How that is happening? Do they stop Ukrainian side to inspect? According to the memorandum, Vienna memorandum signed by countries participants, there is a period when it is mentioned when any military unit can be inspected and they have a free access to those units. And they check the available military equipment in those units and also how many men are there and other weapons which are in those units. If in information which is verified, if everything is fine, if the information is verified, that means that that country doesn't violate those Vienna document. Our military men are working there. Nobody is on their way there. The inspection will continue until February 12, and we'll inform you about the results. What can happen in theory if there is more equipment? Then there will be questions to the country which violates that number that they declare, that number of capabilities or that amount of capabilities that they declared in official documents. Counteroffensive, is it only on near Mariupol or along the whole front line? This is for your understanding. We return to our position, so that's now fighting in the south, and that's what we had according to Minsk agreements. So we just established our status quo. Thank you.